This week we're addressing the topic of anger, and in yesterday's video we reminded ourselves that anger isn't necessarily a sin. Even God feels angry. We feel angry when something that we love is threatened. And the important question that we need to ask ourselves when we feel angry is, what are we loving? And then where do we go with our anger? There's an example in the Bible in the Old Testament of a man who was angry, and God wanted to address him because this man, he was not angry legitimately. He wasn't loving something, it wasn't something that he loved was threatened. Well, I guess it was something that he loved. He loved himself and getting what he wanted. And so that was threatened, and that's not legitimate anger, but then he went to the wrong place with it. So it's the example of Cain and Abel, who were brothers. And Cain was very jealous of his brother Abel. He became very angry at him. And this is in Genesis chapter 4, God himself addresses Cain. It says, Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." And from that passage, we get a very important principle about our anger. Either you will master your anger, or anger will master you. And we don't often realize when anger is mastering us. It happens very subtly. There's another passage from the book of James that I want to read for you. "But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death." It gives birth to death. That if we don't manage our sin, if we don't manage our little bursts of anger, then they're going to manage us, and they will eventually lead to death, which is, Cain found that out, and so did his brother Abel. Cain eventually killed his brother Abel because he did not manage his anger. It started out as something very, very small. When sin is conceived, it seems like not a big deal. But because of the progression that sin takes, we need to consider even the small feelings of anger a big deal. The small feelings of bitterness. The small moments when we give ourselves permission to say, no, I have a right to hold a grudge against that person. They're a big deal, not because in the moment they are doing any damage, but because if we don't manage them, in the end they will do great damage. They will do tremendous damage. We want God to be our master when it comes to anger. And why do we want God to be our master? Just think about how you feel when somebody sins against you. Think about how you feel when somebody says, "I don't care about you." And apply that to how God must feel every time we take our feelings of unjustified anger and run off with it and let it get the best of us. Also think about how you would like to feel, or what you would want someone else to do when you have sinned against them, when you have wronged them, when you're the ones whose angry words cut to their heart and destroyed them. You would like to look at them and apologize and have them say what? Probably the same thing that God says to us, that your anger is not going to get the best of you in the end. We hear as much in the book of 1 Peter. When we look at Jesus, who also knew what it was like to be insulted and to have people hurt him, he said, when they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the cross, so that we might die to sins and live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. For you were like sheep going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. When anger is your master, you will always find death. When God is your master, you will always find someone who will guard your soul and protect it, no matter what it costs him. Let God be your master.